Claude Code is the most groundbreaking thing to happen to vibe coding ever. It blows every other automation and vibe coding platform completely out of the water. So if you use Lovable, if you use Bolt, if you use N8N, but you're not using Claude Code, especially if it's powered by Claude Opus 4.5, you are missing out. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you exactly how you can get set up Claude Code and start cranking out super powerful web apps, even mobile apps, or native Mac and Windows apps in just a matter of minutes. I've spent the past few months tinkering with Claude Code, and I've built some really functional and powerful apps. And today, as we learn Claude Code, we are going to build a habit tracker app. So Claude Code is really easy to install. You're just gonna head over to this website. I'll leave a link in the description. You do require a Claude subscription. You'll see that the Pro subscription is $17 a month with an annual subscription, $20 if you pay monthly, or a Max subscription, which starts at $100. So I'm currently on the Pro subscription, and I've been able to get quite a lot of usage out of Claude Code without really running into any limits. But even if you do end up spending that extra $100, it's going to be more than worth it with that productivity and output boost that you're getting. So once we're in Claude Code, you'll see that there's basically two ways of running it. Either you can run it through the terminal on your computer or through an IDE like VS Code, or you can also use Claude Code as a Chrome extension. Now, the caveat with the Chrome extension is that you do need Claude Code installed on your computer to be able to use the Chrome extension. But once you have the Chrome extension installed, you can use Claude Code to actually take actions in your browser, powered by Claude's incredible model. But in this video, we are going to focus on using Claude Code in the terminal. So to get set up, you're going to copy the command for whatever operating system that you're using, open up a terminal, paste in the command, and that is going to start the installation process. Once you have Claude Code installed, you have to create a folder of any app that you're building or whatever that you're doing, and then run Claude Code from inside that folder. And this is a super important step because wherever you run Claude Code, it's going to have access to all of the files in there. So I'm currently in my home folder, which means if I run Claude Code here, it's going to access all my files, and I don't want it to do that. So what I'm going to do is just head over to the desktop and make a new directory with the mkdir command called Claude Code tutorial. Now once I'm in, and then I'm going to navigate inside that directory and then type in Claude to fire up Claude Code. It's just going to ask me whether I trust the files in this folder, which is why we made a new folder. I'm going to hit enter. And then you're presented with the Claude Code interface. Now from here, the possibilities are endless. You can either ask it to clone a repository from GitHub and then start working on that. You can ask Claude to make something new. But since we're vibe coding, in the spirit of vibe coding, we're going to have it make a new app for us. And the app that we're building is a habit tracker app. So here is my prompt. We're going to create a basic habit tracking app with gamification. We also want simple auth, and we want to set up the database locally for now. And there is one prerequisite for that database, which we'll get to as we build the app. So let's just paste that in, hit enter, and that'll set Claude to work. It's going to think about it. The beauty of Claude Code is this feature called plan mode. Now what plan mode does is it takes your prompt, it digests it, and it outputs an entire plan essentially for Claude itself to follow and for you to verify that Claude is doing what exactly it is that you're looking for. So it's going to come back to me with a few questions. It's going to ask me what framework I want to use. So let's just stick to the recommended option for now. Since we want notifications in our habit tracking app, what kind of notifications we want. To keep it simple, let's just do browser notifications. And for styling, it's going to ask me what I want to do. So let's just choose the recommended one again and submit all the answers. It's going to digest that and then output a plan for us to review. It's actually going ahead and creating a plan to follow. And this is what really makes Claude Opus 4.5 so powerful. And I don't care what other people might be saying, whether GPT 5.2 is the latest breakthrough in coding or Gemini 3 Pro is the latest breakthrough in coding. Opus 4.5 is the closest that I have seen an AI get to an actual developer when it comes to planning an app and actually building it out step by step. So here is our entire plan. It's a habit tracker app. We have the tech stack. It's planned exactly what we need in the database. And if any of this sounds confusing towards the end of the video, I'll quickly break down the basic steps that go into developing any app so this becomes really clear to you. It's also going to create the entire folder structure inside the app. Perfect. And it's broken up the entire app into multiple phases. So we have the project setup, authentication, core habit features, notifications, gamification, and an AI habit coach, and finally the polish as well. So everything else is fine. We have our environment variables, the API key, which we have not provided yet, but we're going to get there. And it's also made like a very comprehensive list of whatever exactly it is that we want to do. We can either accept this as is, or we can tell Claude what to change. So for now, I'm just going to say yes and auto accept edits, hit enter, and then it's going to get to work. Now as Claude builds this out, every time it takes an action of some sort, whether that's installing some packages or dependencies, it's going to ask you for confirmation. For the most security, you'd ideally want to approve everything as Claude asks you. But if you want to speed this up a little bit, you can choose option 2, yes, and don't ask again. But I'm going to stick to option 1 because I do want to see what exactly it is that Claude is doing at every step. And you'll see that it's also keeping track of the tokens and of the time. And it's just going to do its thing. It's going to keep asking me here and there. In case you're wondering, why should I use Claude Code instead of, say, Lovable or Bolt? Lovable or Bolt kind of abstracts this whole planning phase and doesn't really let you see that. Whereas Claude Code gives you a lot more control, and you're not going to run out of credits quite as quickly. So if you're already paying $20 a month for Claude, you can do exactly what you can do with Lovable, and I would argue even better than that, for that same amount of money without having to pay anything extra. Now, admittedly, there is a little bit more work that you need to do to go from an app idea to a published app if you're using Claude Code, but those steps are really simple, and we'll get to those once the app is actually complete. So even though we're getting errors here and there, Claude is self-learning, it's seeing the error, it's figuring out what exactly it is that it needs to fix, and it's just continuing and pushing forward until it actually gives us that final app that we're looking for. So I'm just going to let this complete. And once this completes, there are a few more tips and tricks for Claude Code that I need to show you. All right, so after about 13 minutes, the app is finally ready. Now to run, we do need to set up a local version of Supabase, which we are told requires Docker. So head over to this website. I'll leave a link in the description and download Docker Desktop for your operating system. Now I already have it installed, so I'm just going to fire it up. Now that I have Docker Desktop running, I literally don't have to do anything. I just have to have this running in the background. And I'm going to ask Claude to set up Supabase. And Supabase is the database where all of the data in our app is going to live. All right, so now we are at the moment of truth. It's going to start up the dev server, which means it's going to run this app on the computer locally, and we'll be able to see it in the browser. Let's hit enter. And we finally have a confirmation that Supabase is set up and the app is running. So let's go ahead and grab this URL, drop it into the browser, and this should fire up our habit tracking app. Incredible. So let's just set up a quick account. We are enabling notifications as we had suggested earlier. And here is our habit tracking app complete with a dashboard, statistics, and our AI coach, which is currently not functional because we have not added the API key. So if you go back to the dashboard, we can go ahead and create a new habit. Either this is a good habit or a bad habit that we want to break. What is the frequency? What time do we need a reminder? And we go ahead and create that habit. And we'll see that we have this habit over here. Now, if I click here, it means that I completed this. And if I go into the stats, we'll see that we have one active habit with one done today on January, 1 out of 1 completed. So we were able to build a fully functional application that you could hypothetically deploy to production in just under 15 minutes, and we're not even close to hitting the usage limit. Now with that said, let's look at some more Claude Code tips and tricks that you can use to really get the most out of it. And one of the most powerful things in Claude Code is something called slash commands. So if I hit slash, we'll see that we have all of these different commands that we can tell Claude to do. Clear the conversation history and free up context, open up the config panel, export the current conversation to the clipboard or to a file, and we have all of these different things that we could do. You can add MCP servers, you can give it memory, You can even change the AI model that you're using for coding. I would recommend that you use Opus 4.5 because it is downright the best that's out there. But if you wanted to save on some credits, you could use Sonnet as well. And one of the most powerful things is Claude skills. So if you hit enter, we'll see that we have installed one skill called front-end design. Now, Claude skills are basically sets of specialized instructions that you can provide to Claude Code in order to do a particular task better. And this isn't all there is to it. Even though Claude Code is actually meant for programming, you could run it from a folder which has any kinds of files and have Claude work with and manipulate those files as you need to. So now that our app is built, let me go ahead and show you the basic workings of developing any application. By the way, if you're enjoying this tutorial and you are interested in leveling up AI in your service business or your agency, I run an AI automation mastermind designed to help businesses scale without adding headcount and save over 20 hours every single week. So if you're interested, there's a link to that in the description below. So in order to develop any app, you have 6 basic components. You have frameworks, the front end, the back end, the database, any APIs, and any dependencies. So frameworks are essentially pre-built code structures that take care of all of the foundational functions of your app. So whether that's the basic pages, whether that's the login and logout flow, etc. So you don't need to build all of those from scratch if you use frameworks. Now the front end is built on the framework, and that's the part of your app that the user interacts with directly, which is why it's called the front end. Now anything that happens on the front end goes through the back end, and that data is then processed in the back end and sent to the database where all of that data is stored. The front end might also rely on APIs, which is just a fancy way of saying a means for your web application to talk to other web applications. So for example, your app grabs some data through the Google API from your Google Drive and brings it back to your app. And finally, you have dependencies. And dependencies are also pre-built pieces of code that can perform certain functions that you can add into your app for added functionality instead of having to build everything again from scratch. So whenever you're vibe coding anything, the 4 things that you really need to look at are the frameworks, the front end, the database, and any APIs. And usually the vibe coding platform, usually Claude is going to take care of the backend and the dependencies by itself. If you want to learn more about AI and vibe coding, do remember to subscribe. I post new tutorials every single week. And remember to like this video if you found it useful.